Come B2B with me.
Yo, it's Come B2B with me, No Dave, and I'm joined by Krash. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm really happy to finally meet the man, Dave Jenkins.
Amazing. I'm really happy to meet you as well. And you were, when I started thinking about this concept, you were actually one of the first people I put down on a little wish list, because I tap you up for dubs on the regular. Like, I tapped you up for,
They're bloody awful, mate. I don't know why. They're all right, I guess.
I mean, Militant music, your brand, your platform. I think we come from the same place, don't we?
Yeah. I think so. Well, we just both like platforming good music, really.
Yeah.
And
Bringing people together.
artist focused, really, and yeah, cultivating a community of like-minded artists. Really, it's like a family. It's yeah.
Connections and meaningful shit, really, and having lots of fun with it too.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to like use your platform for a force of good in some way, shape, or form, but also still like not taking yourself too seriously.
100%. And that's exactly what's going to happen in this mix. Now, it was really interesting, your reaction. I mean, you got back to me within seconds of me emailing. Like, I put the hybrid mix up.
I got my push notifications on for one more thing, that's for sure.
Brilliant. So, you got straight back to me, but instead of being like, you said you're up for it, but then you were like, can we do a DnB Classics one? Which threw me, because you're about 20 years younger than me, I think, and you're right at the cutting edge with Militant music. So I was like, I did not expect that at all.
Oh, yeah, I think it's because like, my heart is like I grew up in Essex and around like proper like classic 90s ravers where they just were just pushing like classic drum and bass on me from like such a young age. And it's like London's very like a jungle renaissance at the moment, and so many jungle breakbeat events, and I love the euphoric rave stuff, but like my passion's really with drum and bass, and I know that you got great taste in music, so it would be I kind of had to get some drum and bass classics out there. So
brilliant. Go on. That kind of answers my next question, or what I was thinking, because I was like, what are classics to you? Like, classics to some people might be like, you know, when UKF first blew up. Classics to some people might be like kind of the early 2000s Bristol sound. Classics to me are kind of more like late 90s.
That's a really good point. I don't know. I think it's a certain type of feeling as well. It's not just like, that sounds really pretentious, but but I think it's a certain type of a feeling with like classic drum and bass and jungle, something that like pays homage to like the golden era of the music. Whether people think that that's like in the 90s or early 2000s, or even like up until like the early 2010s. Yeah. Obviously, there's still great music coming out now, but I don't think you call it classic.
No,
but,
I think it's more like stuff that isn't contemporary. So like, I think my youngest classic that I picked for this, whether I play it or not, I don't know, is Marky's Silly, the Amen remix, which I think is around about 2016, 2015 or something. So my classics can run back up to there, but I've also got shit from 1992 as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. And actually, I say anything like there isn't any like current music that we can call that really classic. Anything that Dillinger makes is classic. Literally anything. I don't care what people say, even the stuff from like 2009 and that Fast Car song. I love all of it, mate. Literally everything.
Oh, go on. So we might have some Dillinger. We might have some Dillinger in this. So what? I think you play quite a lot of B2Bs as well, like kind of following you on social media and stuff. You enjoy that social aspect, like we were saying about our platforms and stuff. B2Bs are a bit of you, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. Back-to-backs are great. It's like... I think I see a lot of DJs on back-to-backs where it's almost like they see it as a competition with each other, when it's like it should be like the perfect amalgamation of your styles like working together to have like to turn into some like big like Megatron like in Power Rangers, you know, when like they all come together. That's what it should be like, really. Yes. I think. Yeah. I like, rather than like my drum and bass is better than yours. It's not like that. It's like you're working together to like be like, I don't know, like the dynamic duo or whatever it is, but that's what I think it should be.
Definitely complementing each other. How are we going to work together? Is it going to be 3 for 3, 2 for 2, 1 for 1, or a combination? How do you normally B2B?
I kind of depends. I think the 3 tracks or like 5 tracks is really fun, because then you can kind of have a bit of like loads of different vibes. You can. But I think sometimes when I see back-to-backs where it's like 15 minutes each or like 30 minutes each over like 2 hours, that's boring, man. Yep. That is so boring. I don't want to see that. Just do your own sets.
I think even 5 tracks, I think I'd probably be standing there bored and losing attention. I wouldn't. I'd be watching you and loving it, but
I'd be staring into space, like, oh, when am I going to be able to go back on?
brilliant, cool. So I think we're going to go 3 for 3. There's not going to be any staring into space, but there's probably going to be plenty of bass, especially since you mentioned Dillinger. So right, you're going to take the lead. I'm going to follow. I'm quite apprehensive about this because I know you are a bad boy. You've just had a practice and just smashed it. Then, like, well, I want to practice just letting you have a little go on the decks because they're quite quirky, I think. So just letting you have a little play because I've been on these quite a few times this weekend. I know you've got the energy. I know you've got the tunes. I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it too. I'm sure that I will definitely not clang the whole set. So.
We'll try. I'll try too. No promises. But excellent. Let's get to work. Wicked.
Feel no way.
Stop this. I don't know what this is. I don't know what bullshit this is, but I'm not on no joke thing, straight up and down. No, I'll say it to you, then I'll say it to you, blood. Like, no, it's not that. No, it's not that. It's not that, though. No, it's not that. There's that button in it.
tomorrow. What type of life are we living? Murderation, raping and killing and sin.
just us.
What's this? Generation document. Fucking class that man. Shit. Oh, let me have a listen. It's not exactly my kind of thing, but I might as well cuss it down anyway. I've got nothing better to do with my time. Sitting here in my bedroom. Fucking G-Dub, fucking clown step, fucking gay, mate, fucking gay. All this wobble, jump up, mate, I don't know what's the fucking point, man. Fucking clown step.
Oi, David, your teeth ready!
Hang on, Mum, I'm just on the internet. Down anyway. I've got nothing better to do with my time. Sitting here in my bedroom. Fucking freaking dumb. Fucking clown step. Fucking gay, mate. Fucking gay. All this wobble. Jump up, mate. I don't know what's the fucking point, man. Fucking clown step.
Oi, David, your teeth ready! Fucking hell, yeah! 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 David, your teeth ready!
We like it, I like it, you like it too. Stabbing our MCs on wax for the movement crew. See, all I know is this tune tears up nothing you. So anytime we're around, this is what we do. It's the way that we play this song. It's the way we play this sound. Here's the way. Gotta we bring this sound to you. Now as I'm singing, the body's swinging, but we're playing it loud. Feeding energy from people in the crowd. And you know we got it like this, baby. And you know we got it like that, baby. See as I'm singing, the body's swinging, but we're playing it loud. Feeding energy from people in the crowd. And you know we got it like this, baby. And you know we got it like that. Run track.
and represent.
That was, you just said it just now. That was biblical. Wow.
That was amazing. Truly emotional experience.
Yeah.
Truly emotional experience.
Yeah.
Nothing practiced.
Yeah.
Just 100% freestyle. And it doesn't even really matter if there are, little bits and bobs, little rough around the edges. It's got character, mate.
Yeah.
It's got character.
Definitely. There's so many little observations I wanted to make. But lastly, the very final tune, nice to end with a little bit of message, with a pish posh tune, Corrupt Cops, so a little political message to end with, which I quite liked. But also, I noticed that I didn't, except for the bits where I really did go in on the loops. Normally I mix with the loops a lot. I mix with the effects a lot. I didn't. And at first I thought it was because I was kind of mimicking your style a little bit, and you're heavy on the EQs. You've got real flair on the EQs. But then I think it's to do with the age of the tunes. I don't think you need to loop things so much when they're structured differently, aren't they?
Yeah. I think loops definitely have their place. But I think sometimes it can overcomplicate the mix, and then you end up getting like, "Ooh, wow, what do I do?"
Exactly like I did with the LK one, which kind of worked. I mean, it was fun to do, but I'm still sweating from it now.
I swear, honestly, I get overstimulated when I'm trying to do loops. Sometimes I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, I will do it like maybe twice in a set, and then but if I was to do it like some DJs I see looping tracks crazy, I'm just like, oh my gosh. I mean, I can't. No, but it's like if you can do it, then fair dues to you. But me, I'm just like, maybe not. But
when it comes together, it comes together. You were doing some really interesting loop stuff, but what I also loved, and we were doing quite a lot of, is the contrast. Like, it's a reminder that it's drum and bass. It's not subgenres. It's not liquid or jump up. It's just drum and bass, and like some of the most beautiful musical tunes can go with some of the gulliest, stinkiest tunes, and they fit like hand in glove, don't they?
Yeah, no, exactly. I feel like as long as you're mixing both in key, then you can kind of mash anything together and it will sound good, which is really important. Please, other DJs, please mix in key, because it is painful sometimes. I'm not saying anyone in particular, but just mix in key, please.
Do you use have you used in the past the Camelot wheel, and do you organise your tunes? You are really organised. You've got lots of cue points. You're coming in the middle quite often and stuff, so you know your tunes really well and you set them. So have you put the key in the tracks, and do you organise them in that way?
I think it's literally just from knowing your tunes like really, really well, and I think I literally just organise them with in Record Box through like there's a little button that like will show you all of the different tracks that are in the playlist that work in key, and then usually I just put a few tracks next to each other that work in key, and like and just really go with that. I don't know. I think I plan like the first like 10 or 12 tracks in a mix, and then just kind of go off what if it's a back-to-back, just go off what the other person's going for, and then if it's my own set, just kind of looking at the crowd and going, oh, okay, are they hating every song I'm playing? Kind of, I think I'll go with the one that they cheered at the most. Reading the crowd is so important, because it's not like the me show, it's the ravers, and I guess it's different with radio and streams, but
stuff like this.
It's different, but certainly in the rave, I think it's so important to like watch the ravers and like actually, because they're the ones paying money to see you, and you're entertaining them. You're providing them a service. So I feel like that's definitely something to remember. There's a lot of like, look at me and my drum and bass. Look at me. It's the. By the way, you're coming to see me. It's not like that. No.
No, it really shouldn't be. And I guess we've taken out, because that is one of the hardest aspects of the craft: reading the room and knowing what people and being able to second guess what people want. And that's kind of like, we take that hard job out of sessions like this, where it's just like just two friends just having fun with music, really. And it's a lot easier. We didn't have to worry about losing any dance floor.
No, yeah, of course. I mean, like I think people want to see you having as much fun as possible. Like people that would tune into this will see us having loads of fun and dancing around, and that'll be a lot more enjoyable than like a super serious DJ like standing there like, oh, I'm some mysterious rave entity. But hey, each to their own. I really do think that. But oh mate, I've had some absolute shockers when I haven't read the dance hall properly. I remember one that I opened with this like really heavy like old school jump up tune, and like shit you not, it literally completely cleared the entire dance floor, and like everybody left, and then like literally like 3 minutes later, when they heard the song finish, everybody came baback, and I was like, damn, it definitely was that song that everybody left for. Hey, you know what, people need humbling experiences. They definitely, and to be a bit more self-aware, and I definitely am now. So
Definitely. I know that, like, I think it's Doc Scott in interviews that I've done has compared that with DJing and stand-up comedy. Like, not every punchline lands, basically.
No, yeah, definitely not. I think I saw Randall in an interview, rest in peace, saying that it's so important to like read the room and watch the ravers, and I definitely have taken a leaf out of that, and just been it makes sense to I don't know. You just have to pay attention to the people coming to the shows.
You really do. And I'm paying attention to the people I'm doing the B2Bs with every guest I'm doing. I try and learn something from everyone. And the one thing I think I've taken, like, I think from every DJ, especially younger DJs who are much more, have started as digital DJs, are a lot more organised with their admin and their cue points and everything like that. But 180. I've never just mixed the 180. It's crept up to 180, but 180's got some real energy. I've cussed 180. I've been like, that's too fast. I prefer 165. 180's a vibe.
Yeah, I think it definitely not always, but when I get the opportunity to just play like drum and bass or like really fast jungle, I mean, because with my own production, I've really been focusing on doing a lot of euphoric like breakbeat hardcore stuff with air break and jungle stuff with serotonin, and like that's great, and I really love that. But I've got a lot of like really fast drum and bass on the way. It's a lot of like Dillinger inspired stuff, and that's the stuff I really want to be focusing on. And I feel like there definitely is a place for really fast drum and bass and really fast jungle at the moment. And I do love the slower stuff, but I don't know, it's energizing, you know.
It's got its place. Now, I mean, you have your eyes on the future. I do, like I said in the interview before this, I tap you up at Dubz. I see you as somebody who's very much on the cusp and knows what's coming. Do you think we could see a revival of those big ballsy kind of jump up dance floor, massive steamroller type of tracks, the G Dubz, the original Sins, but as those, you know, that type of sound, like I know those guys are still killing it, you know, original Stillers, but that particular sound and that energy and that width of track, do you think that could be maybe coming back?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a massive rise again on like tech step and dark side drum and bass, especially in London. You've got lots of different labels pushing that. You know, we focused on a lot of like heavier drum and bass, and Notorious Steppers as well. They've focused on a lot of and Burner Records, another new label called Surge on Wax, which is basically just all vinyl, dark side drum and bass, and like sort of late 90s tech step. And these are like young guys putting these labels together and releasing this music. So there definitely is like a resurgence, like there was like last year with like Jungle coming back. Well, I'd say becoming really, really popular again, as well as drum and bass. But no, yeah, the heavier side, I really hope it does come back, because we're certainly going to be bringing back a lot of heavier tracks. So, you know, we haven't gone soft, and I hope everybody else joins in.
Go on, heavy times call for heavy music, and this has been a heavyweight come B2B with me. So I've been No Dave, this has been Krash from Militant Music, and this has been a fucking blast. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, it's been so much fun.
Go on, cool. If you fancy a B2B with me, then email me yo@one-more-thing.co.uk. We'll be back very, very soon. Come B2B with me. Peace. Brilliant, man.
Come B2B with me.